Hello, dear friends. It is a basic principle of universal law that no one can interfere with our free will, with our conscious or unconscious consent. It is precisely the unconscious part that we do not fully control, and to control it, we must decree our sovereignty in a conscious and constant manner. When a being imposes his will, no one has power over him as long as he acts in harmony with universal law. If you want to know who controls you, look at those whom they do not allow you to criticize, said Voltaire. Opinion piece. They are not allowed. We do not allow any interference. Decreed to be repeated aloud every day. Message from the Galactic Federation. The technological bubble could burst. The wars of the future would be robotic. There will be battles between combat robots. Bitcoin is the world's third currency. Bitcoin ATMs on the rise in the US. Curfew declared in Miami Beach. Insults to Russia and China sent fear into Europe. Council of Europe asks Spain for more freedom of expression. Hiring detectives to monitor teleworkers. Demand for deceased people's apartment emptier soars. Famine, thefts of people stealing to eat on the rise. Millions of spiders and snakes invade homes in southeastern Australia. Sustainable Mars City project unveiled by architecture firm. In quotes, we, the people of Earth, do not give you, the invisible dark forces, beings and entities, permission to control us in any way imaginable. Close quotes. Let's start. We do not give permission is the title of an alleged message from the Galactic Federation that calls for action and which, regardless of any doubts about its origin, I reproduce its content verbatim and in its entirety because I agree with its axioms and postulates. Open quotes. We, the Galactic Federation of Light, summon all starseeds and light workers on Earth to raise their frequency to send this message to the dark forces of this planet. In accordance with universal law, we, the galactic body that oversees this pact of the cosmos, do not give the dark forces of energy our permission to continue to use the energy of the people of Earth for their own purposes. As rulers of light, we urge you to leave the good citizens of Earth alone. After many thousands of years of being able to remain on this plane of existence, due solely to the law of free will, which was given to this planet at the beginning. Starseeds, lightworkers, and citizens of Earth, please declare out loud. We, the people of Earth, do not give you, the invisible dark forces, beings, and entities, any permission to control us in any way imaginable. Close quotes. Technological bubble. What if the tech bubble burst? Noting a recent client survey, Deutsche Bank's Jim Reid reminds readers in his daily chat of the day, note that there have been great fears that there is a bubble in tech and Bitcoin, with 90% of respondents thinking both are in a bubble, which explains the roller coaster ride in tech stocks this week. That said, Reid correctly cautions that his audience is probably not the natural buyer of these assets. So it's a sentiment observation rather than a positioning tool. In other words, there is a group of posers, many of whom wish they had a lot of bitcoins. Still, in most of the client meetings, Reid has had this year, the topic of tech valuations comes up and as a result, there is speculation about the impact a tech bubble busting could have on the broader market. Definition: a technology bubble is a type of market froth characterized by increased speculation in the technology sector, leading to a radical increase in values for companies operating in that sector. Like other fronts, a technology bubble is a very delicate entity that can burst over time. If the foam has grown large enough, the bursting of the bubble can drag down the economy as a whole and lead to further recession. Global crisis. On the brink of a global crisis, Rabobank warns of biblical rise in food prices. We continue to have lean years and fat years. In an analysis entitled Biblical, Skinny and Wicked, Dreams of an Agri-Food Supercycle, Rabobank strategists Michael Every and Michael McDowith highlight how 9-month and 7 years highs have been reached in feed and key food prices. Both explore by way of comparison the biblical passage in which Joseph, a trader and planner, adverted the famine of ancient Egypt. It is worth recalling how in the Bible Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream as an omen that the great abundance of 7 years would be replaced by a famine or another 7 years. That is why he was tasked with ensuring that Egypt would store enough grain for the country to survive. The latest financial news has just been given by Don Carlos de Marbella, who has just said in his latest video that the activation codes for the QFS quantum financial system have been introduced. Wars of the future. A futurist told that what the wars of the future will be. Wars in the future will become an industry competition for the production of high-quality combat robotics, said Yevgeny Kutsenov, a member of Presidium of the Foreign Defense Policy Council, director of the Singularity University in Moscow, and a futurist. Previously, robots in the army were the lot of rich countries like the US. Now Turkey and Israel have broken through the barrier and are making drones a massive product, which, as we have seen in the example of Azerbaijan, make a significant contribution to the outcome of hostilities with marine drones. War is becoming a competition of economies. Whoever would have assembled more and better robots would be more successful in solving problems on the battlefield, Kuznetsov said. According to him, the massive use of unnamed aerial vehicles and sea and land vehicles would change the centuries-old perception of the state as a community of people, of which the more the better, as they are working hands and potential soldiers. Robots break this scheme because they replace people in the workplace and in the military. We are not ready for the model of a state that is strong not because of people, but because of robots, he said. Digital news. Cyberterrorism. The Biden administration criticized Russia and China over recent allegations that their respective governments staged hacking attacks against several federal agencies and dozens of private sector companies. New York City councilman wants to keep armed robotic dogs off police radar. A New York City councilman wants to ban armed robotic dogs after the New York Police Department successfully tested one of the four-legged devices at the crime scene. However, the manufacturer of the dogs insists its devices are friendly. IBM develops artificial intelligence to debate humans. A new study details the progress made by an artificial intelligence program developed by IBM scientists whose sole purpose is to improve on humans in debates. Project Debater, under development for several years by the tech giant, chooses a side and argues its cause using a technique known as argument extraction, in which the machine analyzes and links the most useful sections of important arguments by analyzing a large archival amount of some 400 million new articles on a given topic. Microchip hunger, a global shortage of semiconductors caused by the ongoing US trade war with China and rising demand for electronics exacerbated by the receding health crisis, has spurred the need to seek measures to increase capacity. Skyrocketing prices and shortages of products ranging from televisions and cell phones to automobiles and game consoles are the pushback consumers are facing. United States. Miami Beach curfew and road closures due to crowds. Authorities in Miami Beach ordered to a curfew starting to 8 p.m. tonight and closed the access roads to this tourist island in Florida. Due to uncontrollable crowds during the spring break university recess called spring break. Congressman releases photos of Border Patrol facility. Congressman Henry Cuellar from Texas revealed several photos of an overflow tank facility in Donna, Texas, showing the overcrowded conditions of hundreds of illegal immigrants crossing the border. The photos show human beings sleeping on the ground next to makeshift beds. A Mexican citizen who survived the massacre in Message parlors in the Atlanta area denounced that he was the victim of mistreatment at the hands of police officer who kept him handcuffed for 4 hours after the events. Pentagon wants new command and control system to counter hypersonic cruise missile threat. In 2017, Russia became the first country in the world to deploy nuclear-capable hypersonic missiles, with development beginning after the US withdrew from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty and began building a missile shield. Moscow sees the weapons as a guarantee against decapitation attacks. China also has a successful hypersonic program. Crypto coins. US is no rush to launch a digital dollar. The Federal Reserve is in no rush to launch a digital currency because such a move could pit the US central banks against commercial banks to compete for funds and destabilize the financial system, Chairman Jerome Powell said Monday. Bitcoin ATMs are landing at gas stations, delis, and convenience stores near you. The Bitcoin ATM trend has already started in some delis and gas stations in places like Montana and the Carolinas and New York City. Companies like CoinFlip and CoinCloud have installed thousands of ATMs across the country. CoinCloud has 1,470 machines in the US and is targeting from 10,000 by the end of 2021. Bitcoin is already the third largest currency in the world, Deutsche Bank has published a report defending the magnitude that Bitcoin has acquired to such an extent that it has become the third largest currency in terms of total value in existence today. Bitcoin price could rise to $3,000. Bitcoin has reached its record price above 60,000 earlier this month. Now the cryptocurrency is trading at around 57,000. Bitcoin value could rise to 300,000 with possible gains to up to 100,000 this summer. Co-founder and former CEO of BTCC, the China-based crypto exchange, and founder and CEO of crypto wallet startup Wallet, Bobby Lee, said Monday. However, he warned that there could be a downturn after cryptocurrency peaks. Europe. Insults to Russia and China rattle Europe. Insults to the Russian president and verbal violence against the Chinese government set the stage for the new US foreign policy and forces Europe to choose between subordination or independence. European transition to electric cars. Europe is trying to say goodbye to the vehicles with traditional gasoline and diesel engines, but conflict between environmentalists and industry has stalled the transition. In early March, 9 European countries called for a clear date for the end of the production and sale of internal combustion engines in Europe. Brussels wants to phase out combustion vehicles by 2050, but refuses to give a clear deadline. France commemorates 150 years of the Paris Commune. At the foot of the Sacré-Cœur, Sacred Heart, in the French capital, 50 portraits represent the people of Paris who proclaimed the Commune of March 1871. It only lasted until the Bloody Week, in which 20,000 communards died at the hands of the army of Versailles in May of the same year. Clashes in English town leave 20 police officers injured. A protest in the western English city of Bristol against new police rules led to violent clashes in which at least 20 officers were injured. 2 seriously, police said Friday. Spain. Council of Europe calls on Spain to amend the criminal code to strengthen freedom of expression. European Commission Commissioner for Human Rights Dunja Mijatovic on Monday called on the Spanish authorities to strengthen the country's criminal code to safeguard freedom of expression. In quotes, I note that in recent years an increasing number of criminal convictions, including prison sentences, have been handed down against artists for controversial lyrics and other performances, and against social media activists for statements deemed offensive. Close quote. Mijatovic writes in her missive addressed to the Spanish Ministry of Justice. Hiring of detectives to monitor teleworkers who skip their hour is on the rise. Private detective firms have seen an increase in demand for their services from companies which are vary of their employees' compliance with their working hours. The demand of emptiers of company premises and apartments of deceased people is soaring. These businesses cannot keep up with the demand, and some companies are emptying more than 150 apartments a month. One business that is now busier than ever is that of the emptying of apartments and companies. This is their job, to remove absolutely everything that is left in a home or office. The starvation thefts are on the rise. These are the thefts committed out of extreme necessity and without violence. Whoever commits them may be exempt from criminal liability. The local police of Mazarrón, Murcia, surprised a few weeks ago a man leaving someone else's house with some cans of tuna, sugar and a mixer. After being taken to court, he was released. The judge is now investigating whether it is a crime of petty theft, a formula that can exempt the thief from criminal liability. Lithium or giant Buddha? Dispute over the opening of an strategic mine for the European Union in Spain. Lithium or spiritual tourism? The possible exploitation of an open pit mine divides Cáceres. City council and neighborhood organizations are against it. The regional government of Extremadura grants permission to the company. Under the ground, the second deposit of this mineral in the European Union. On the surface, the largest Buddhist temple in Europe. Curious. Dogs received the blessing of San Lázaro in Nicaragua. Dressed in colorful costumes and with ribbons tied to their heads or necks, hundreds of dogs received the blessing of San Lázaro, protector of animals and the sick in Nicaragua, together with their owners, devout Catholics. With the celebrations, Nicaraguans recall the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, a poor man covered with sores who longed to eat the leftovers from the rich man's table, while the dogs licked his wounds. However, when the two men died, it was Lazarus who went to heaven, while the rich man went to hell for clinging to material things during his life. Locals have relied on the healing powers of San Lázaro since the 19th century, when a deadly cholera epidemic ravaged Nicaragua. UAC pledged to maintain military presence in the Falklands. The UK government has published the Integrated Security, Defence, Development and Foreign Policy Review, which states that it will maintain a permanent military presence in the Malvinas Islands to defend London's sovereignty over the archipelago in dispute with Argentina. The reaction of Buenos Aires was not long in coming. Erdogan fires central bank governor amid war against high interest rates. The Turkish president has fired 3 central bank chiefs since 2019. In November, in the wake of a double-digit drop in the value of their lira against the dollar, he declared that Ankara faced a historic struggle against those who want to force a surrender of Turkey in the modern era throughout the shackles of interest rates, exchange rates, and inflation. 55 chemicals never before seen in people detected. Many of the chemicals in our bloodstream come from consumer products or other industrial sources. Scientists have also discovered that chemicals in the blood of pregnant women can also travel to their newborn children throughout the placenta. China. Chinese military power. In an hypothetically military conflict, China would win by sea, the United States by air, and Russia by land. A study suggests China has the most powerful military force in the world and would have a significant advantage in the hypothetical event of a military conflict. A recent study published by the website Military Direct shows. European Union sanctions for Chinese officials for Uyghur abuses. The European Union imposed sanctions on 4 Chinese officials for their alleged involvement in human rights violations against Uyghurs in northwest China. The European Union sanctions announced on March 22 touched large-scale arbitrary detentions carried out in particular against Uyghurs in Xinjiang in China, said the European Council, an European Union body that includes the heads of state of the European member countries. China sanctions 10 individuals and 4 European entities in retaliation for punitive measures imposed by the European Union. European authorities imposed sanctions on Beijing over human rights abuses against Uyghurs. China's foreign ministry, in a statement, has threatened to punish the European Union with tougher sanctions if it does not stop giving Beijing alleged lessons of human rights. China's find gold mask from mysterious 3,000-year-old civilization. The fragment of a 3,000-year-old gold mask belonging to the Dui culture, a mysterious civilization that developed in China during the Bronze Age, has been found along with 500 other relics and at an archaeological site in Dui, at southwest China's Xinjiang province, local media report. Australia. Millions of spiders take over homes in southeastern Australia, escaping floods. Millions of arachnids and other insects, as well as snakes, are covering Australia's higher ground in an attempt to escape one of the country's worst floods in 20 years, The Guardian reports. Australian sex scandal. A sex scandal rocking the Australian government has worsened after a soft in Parliament leaked graphic images to the media of employees performing sex acts in the building, which they apparently filmed and shared with each other. Astronomy and astronautics. Sustainable City Project on Mars. The Mars City Project is part of a scientific work organized by the Mars Society and developed by an international team of scientists and academics. The project for a self-sufficient and sustainable city on Mars has been presented by an international architectural firm called Abibu. The city of Nuwa is envisioned to be on the side of one of the Martian cliffs located in Tempe Mensa. The site was chosen because it is believed to have access to a large amount of water. Nuwa is planned as a vertical city which should provide protection from the radiation and meteorites while retaining access to direct sunlight. NASA finds on Mars have Navajo names. Natives have had ties to the land in North America since the time immemorial, and now that connection is expanding into the cosmos. The Perseverance rover has been on Mars for a month, collecting data and making discoveries with each passing day. Several of the findings, through a collaboration with NASA, have been catalogued in Dine Bizard, the Navajo language. The Perseverance team started with a list of 50 words and will expand the list as needed. RAF, prepare for space warfare. The head of the UK Space Directorate, Air Vice Marshal Harvey Smith, expressed concern that Russia had conducted a new space test of anti-missile, anti-satellite weapons, claiming the consequences of miscalculations and accidents that have the potential to be catastrophic. Scientists discover Cepheus Spa, a new hidden structure in the Milky Way. New data collected by the Gaia mission have enabled scientists to draw the most detailed map to date of the spiral arms of a galaxy. A group of researchers led by the Astrobiology Center of Spain has discovered a new structure in the Milky Way that has been named the Cepheus Spa. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.